Hello and welcome to episode 196 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just a couple of regular guys drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering. In particular, the online client, MTG Arena.
Oh, that's right, Jeff, and we got one of our favorite episodes today. Love these first sips of the brand new Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering set. It is out as of today on Arena. And we got to talk about our first sips or our first thoughts on the set. But first, each week we bring a beer, we drink it, we rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right. Zach, I know you're super into Final Fantasy, and that's why I've decided to throw you a bone with the beer we're doing this time. I've brought for you something called Presto Changeo. Now, this is a beer from Fairweather. Longtime listeners of the show might recognize that name. It is my favorite brewery, and it's in the city that I live in. And longtime friend of the show is a brewer there. Shout out to Ryan. But they make good stuff. And this time, what I've brought for you is a fruit beer. It is described as a tart mini pale ale with blueberries and lemon, lemon, lemon. And you know what? It's not going to hit us too hard at 3.7%. So let's give it a shot.
Hell yeah. I wanted to ask, what did you mean by you're throwing me a bone because I'm a Final Fantasy fan now? Is there some sort of joke with Final
Just
Fantasy?
that you're going to like this episode and you're going to like this beer.
Oh, okay, perfect. All
Because
right,
it's
great.
a fruit beer.
Oh, yes.
That's all.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yeah, I am usually the one who brings the fruity beers on the show, so it's nice to have Jeff throw one in here. But
Every once in a while, I sprinkle one in.
it's true. Well, it seemed very obvious because also Jeff loves lemons, and so the fact that this has the word lemon on it 3 times plus a bunch of pictures of lemons, I think it makes sense.
That is what sold me.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, do you want to crack this one open and get started?
Lemons are better than limes. Come at me.
I don't think I agree, but okay. We've had this
So
debate.
time for that, Zach. We have to
Yeah.
pour the beer.
I know we've talked about this a lot. Oh my gosh, it's also very purple.
This is a beer that you would bring.
That's
in
right. Yes, there was a period of time where I would only bring purple beers to the show.
Every single time. Purple or sometimes pink. But
Yeah. Sometimes they weren't necessarily on purpose. They just happened to be purple or pink.
Yeah.
But, well, I do love blueberries, and this is a dark blueberry color for such a light beer. Ooh. Okay. Very excited for this one. Anyway, with that, we have some Magic news. Of course, Final Fantasy has just released on Magic the Gathering Arena. Finally! I feel like we've been waiting for a long time for this, or at least I have. So I'm extremely stoked that it's here, and been playing a lot of it already. I've been playing a bunch of other events. I've done a lot of Final Fantasy stuff, so I have many thoughts on the set, and I'm excited to dive into it.
yeah, and I haven't played it yet, so I'm excited to hear what you think of the set.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. As of our recording right now, we are recording on Tuesday night, so the set came out this morning at 11. And, well, Jeff's been working all day and has 2 children, so, makes it a little bit hard to play. I currently do not, and so I was just drafting all day.
Yeah.
But also, Pro Tour Final Fantasy Las Vegas is coming up, not this weekend, but the following one. That is June 20th to the 22nd, where there will be playing, it's like 350 participants, and they're playing Final Fantasy Draft and Standard. So that'll be fun to check out.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. I will be at a wedding that weekend, so in the mountains. So there's a chance I won't really be able to see any of it, but that's okay. I'll have to watch the VODs.
Yeah. Watching VODs is where it's at. I mean, it's fun to watch live for sure.
Course.
But if you can't watch live, then the VODs is a pretty good experience because you get to just kind of jump to
Whatever
it's
you
all
want.
magic. It's like very
That's true.
compact.
Yeah, you don't have to sit through a bunch of other things or random, like, they used to just do a bunch of, card reveals and stuff, which
Yeah.
now I think the way that they're doing the Pro Tour, we won't have that issue. where
Right.
they're trying to spoil different things. But actually, because I just brought this up, Jeff, I did want to ask you: do we know when we're gonna get the like championship, the world championship cards now?
Oh,
Because
good
it
question.
it used to be like the world championship was in October, and then in the spring we would get the card for the previous year.
Hmm.
So last year was 2024. We wouldn't get the 2024 winner, but we'd get the 2023 winner this spring. But we didn't. I believe Jean Emmanuel Depraz is the next one we're waiting for. And we didn't get his card in Tarkir Dragonstorm or Final Fantasy, but I wasn't expecting it in Final Fantasy, so
Yeah, that would be a bit odd.
it would be strange.
It's just like Titus with
Yeah.
Jean-Emmanuel
Yeah.
Dupras's face. That's a good question. Yeah, I forgot about that. So I have to keep an eye out for JED. But
Yeah, I
they
think there's
better do them solid. Like these people are
yeah.
owed cards.
It's true. There's probably like I could see it happening in the next set, Edge of Eternities. There's a bunch of space
Mhm.
stuff, and that's a magic set. It would make sense. Also, through the announcement, I don't know if you've actually seen this before, but through the announcement for the Pro Tours talking about this one, I also found out that the next Pro Tour after this is going to be in the end of September, and that will be Edge of Eternities. So that will be a different Pro Tour thing where it's like the set will have been out for a long time, and then they'll do the
Right.
Pro
Whereas
Tour.
this one it just dropped.
Exactly. So that'll be a little different. And Aether Drift also had just dropped, so that's a new kind of feel to it. But the World Championship is usually like almost around Halloween in
Yeah,
October.
October.
It's going to be in December, early December.
Hmm.
Yeah, the 5th to the 7th. So that was news to me because I was always thinking like, "Oh, the Pro Tours are so close together to the World Championship. It's so bizarre." This
Yeah.
makes way more sense. It's just literally there's one a quarter, and I don't know why
I'm gonna
they.
have to change my plans though. I was totally prepared to block off October.
Yeah, well now you don't have to. So
Yeah.
there you go. Anyway,
We'll see.
so then maybe it will be like the op. It will just be the opposite part of the year from World Championship being, the summer, and then the winter will be the actual tournament. But things to look out for in Pro Magic. So always excited to see some more stuff and see how they're kind of tweaking things. But I think there's four big tournaments and they're just one a quarter makes way more sense than what they did
It
last year. So
it's much better. Yeah.
so
And
makes
I
it
don't
just
hate the mix of like format is brand new and format is a little mature. I tend to prefer the brand new format Pro Tour events myself,
it's a lot more fun to
but I
watch. I
know
think
it's a lot easier on the players the other way. So,
that is true. Where you don't have to front load all of this stuff and then try to get everything going before it. But hey, I guess it is funny because it would incentivize players to be streamers and things to do the streamer event or be part of other things where you get to kind of know some
right.
more
Yeah,
information
yeah,
early
yeah.
if you're qualified for the Pro Tour. So maybe that's I don't think that that's like a reason that they were trying to get players to do those things, but it would give you a leg up if you're trying to play in those competitive tournaments. But
And it tests different skills, right? Like solving a format very quickly or coming up with a new deck in a format very quickly is a very different thing than like mastering a known format and just doing that really well.
it's
So
true,
actually having a mix is not the worst idea because it sort of promotes like
both
different
things.
players are going to be better at different
Exactly.
events. So yeah, sort of like how some people crush draft and some people are standard experts. It's like now a sub segment within standard. It's like, are you really good in solved formats or are you really good in like exploratory formats
That's
where
true.
there's a lot to
Well,
uncover?
I guess it's also the same with draft as well, where it feels like, oh,
True.
is there a
Yeah, yeah.
known entity yet, or have you figured out the new special thing that nobody has, or whatever, or have you
That's always the
moved
coolest though, when a team finds like a draft archetype that's,
that they
like
push really
hidden
hard?
in there and that everyone on that team like drafts that and just crushes.
Yeah,
Like pretty rare, but when it happens, you're like, "Oh, that's awesome."
It is pretty cool. It's also pretty cool to watch them tank and just get destroyed. Where they're like, we have this very
Just get
specific.
Boros right out.
Yeah, yeah. We're like, we have this very specific thing. We're gonna go for these really aggressively statted creatures, or sorry, defensively statted creatures. Where we have this extra thing we're gonna do that's gonna go over the top everybody else, and they just get blown up with Boros.
Everyone on the team O3s.
Yeah, you're like, so what happened there? Like, well, we just didn't open the right cards. The cards that we were expecting didn't wheel. That kind of stuff. Just actually, to be fair, nobody talks to them at that point. When you're O3, people don't really ask you questions because they're like, I don't need to know anything about.
I
don't need to talk to you
about your draft strategy. Except it depends which team, right? Because it'll be the whole team O3s except like John Finkel who 3-0s with the same strategy.
With the same deck. And they'll be like, so what happens? Like, John's just really good. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The strategy was bad. John is good.
Yeah. Well, or John really liked it. He told us all to play it. We didn't fully grasp it.
I guess we didn't understand it. Yeah.
But anyway, Jeff, let's start talking about some Final Fantasy stuff and get into some
excited
of these.
to pick your brain on this one.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, then how about you? We put it that way. What do you want to know? I guess what are you interested to hear?
The kick to the kick. Well, we always start the same way, okay, when we do these episodes, and that is, how does the set feel? Now, this doesn't necessarily mean like, do I love the set? Do I hate the set? It's too early. It's too early. But does the set feel the way that they promised? So in this particular case, that's pretty easy. Do you feel like you're immersed in the world of Final Fantasy when you play this set?
Yes. I think that obviously there's a lot of characters that pop up, and I'm only familiar with a certain amount of them. But I will say that the actual feel of the set, I often actually kind of forget I'm playing a Final Fantasy set, and it just kind of feels like magic a lot of the time.
Perfect. I think that's the answer people wanted to hear. I tried to set you up with the oh, is it Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
You spiked it.
But I mean, there are, you see the chocobos and you see like the Moogles and all those weird things, or the kind of change in certain, you can tell certain, you start to realize, like, I think Final Fantasy IX has kind of, the characters look a little bit smaller as far as like their proportions. And so you'll start to see that and you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Why do they look so strange? Oh yeah, this is from 9. Okay, all the characters that are part of that look like that. So you become a little bit more accustomed to those types of things. But overall, I just feel like the cards look and feel, and the play of it is just like, yeah, this is just magic. And I have personally dived deep into Final Fantasy things, so I'm interested in seeing all that stuff, but it does just feel like magic to me.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of the goal, I think, for Universes Beyond. Something we'll have to think about a lot moving forward, obviously. But to me, the goal is, if you haven't played Final Fantasy, this just feels like magic. And if you have played Final Fantasy, it's still magic, but you get all of this cool, like, you get rewarded for having a deep knowledge of that, like, franchise. I think neither of us, unfortunately, are in the perfect, like, perfect would be one of us was a huge Final Fantasy nerd and the other one had played zero, and we both like it, kind of thing. I think we're both kind of like, I have some experience with Final Fantasy. I've played like 2 of the games. I know a handful of the characters. And so, but it's important that it still feels like it should scale. It still feels like magic for us. And because I played Final Fantasy X, I get a few of the jokes or whatever. And so that's I think, when it's done right. I think, D&D was okay for that. Like, I never played D&D, and it still felt like magic, but it was definitely like, okay, there's a lot of like rolling D20s and stuff that, like, I just don't really,
that
a little
was
over the top.
Yeah. Where, like, I think the closest thing we have for Final Fantasy is like the tiered spells, which feel the closest to the actual Final Fantasy thing, and those just fit perfectly into magic. Like
Right.
it just feels like another
It
magic.
doesn't
Like
feel out of place, whereas the
yeah,
D20 is for like you wedged this in because it's a D&D thing. This is not close to stuff that Magic does,
yeah.
really.
And I will also say that specifically rolling dice for certain outcomes is something that in games I don't really like, and
Right.
so shoehorning that into the game, I think there was like a Arkham Horror, the card game, was a RPG like type of game, but it was also kind of like a card game at the same time. But instead of rolling dice, you have to pick tokens out of a bag. And I thought that that was way more fun to figure out whether you
Mhm.
passed or failed by picking out a token than rolling a
Mhm.
dice. I just, for whatever reason, I always feel like the dice are against me, and it's so just it's like the same thing as like drawing. Some people feel when they're like drawing lands when they want to draw something else, and they're like the deck is just or the shuffler or whatever, and they just like get overly frustrated with that. That's kind of how I
Yeah.
feel about D20s. So in general, I try to keep that out of my life.
Well, at the risk of extending the tangent even a third stage, there
Hmm.
was I don't know if you ever heard of a game called Gloomhaven, but it's like a board game
Yeah,
that's
that's
inspired
the
by
giant one, right? The
yeah,
big,
it's fucking
huge box,
huge. I never played the actual board game. I played on Tabletop
a
Studio or whatever it
simulator,
was,
right?
um, which just sets it all up for you, which
Oh,
is beautiful.
amazing. Save
But
you like 30 minutes.
and you don't have to put it away either,
Oh
right?
God.
Um, but the way that one worked was you had like a deck, it was cards.
Hmm.
You'd shuffle them and then you'd flip the card and it'd be like, oh, you get this +2 or
Hmm.
whatever. And if that was enough, you would hit. And then sometimes the card would have like an ice thing, so your attack gets bolstered by ice because you
Mm.
happen to hit the ice thing. And I was like, this feels way cooler than a D20, even though it's kind of doing the same thing. It's just, but then it was a bit of a, there was that like pseudo deck building thing where you're building your deck as you go
Got it.
through and replacing all the shitty -1s and -2s with
Yes.
like cards that suck
I
less. So
I do
it's like
love
weighting your die over time, you know?
that's those are like I love games like that. I love deck building games and things, and yeah, just
Yeah.
the luck of the draw just feels so much better than the roll of the dice.
Yeah.
Though I will say the only time I enjoy rolling dice is I do think that like craps is a really fun game
Okay.
because of the community aspect. The dice feel almost completely irrelevant, and I haven't really
Yeah.
played a lot of craps, but like I was in a play where we got to play some, and that was a blast because you just like you roll it and you just hope for the best, but then the whole table erupts if you get it because
Right.
everyone's
Where
kind of betting
like
together.
whereas blackjack it's like or sorry, like roulette or something.
Hmm.
It's like everyone just places their bets and they spin and everyone's hoping for their own individual outcome.
Exactly.
Whereas like this one it's like, oh, one you're the person rolling
Yeah, and
the
it's like
dice.
us against the house, as a
Right.
team,
Yeah.
and just like that energy is so like exciting and lots of fun, and you kind of roll until you lose a little bit. So there's a great community aspect to that, but those are two d6, which are prefer
Yeah.
prefer over
Completely different.
completely different. Come on, but anyway, yes. So I've been able to play a good chunk of Final Fantasy just because I did a draft with some folks with a box that I had. I did a pre-release event, and I was also lucky enough to be part of the streamer event last week for the first time. I've never been able to do that, so that was exciting. So I drafted a ton that day, and I also did a lot of losing. I did not perform extremely well. It
You mean
was
you did a lot of learning? Learning is the word we use.
Well, see, I wish that I had some things I could sit down and tell you. Well, this is why this thing and blah 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 blah. That wasn't really my experience. It was just like, oh man, this is I don't know why this is bad. I feel like my decks look good, and then keeps happening, kind of thing. So a little bit more frustrating. Though we did end the day. I got bullied into playing a mostly mono black deck from chat because we opened
Hmm.
the rare god that's like 5 black pips,
Oh yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like mostly black already. So I basically was playing mono black, splashing a couple white cards, and we did really well. We like got a trophy with that deck. So it was like,
Nice.
okay, maybe you could do a lot of crazy things with this. And it's always the weird middle, like medium of like, am I going too crazy or not crazy enough, or am I playing like, what am I? What's
Especially in
happening?
the streamer event, though, because I wonder how many
It's,
people like that probably skews crazy relative to what
well,
you're gonna see
I
in
was kind of
the.
expecting that, but then there would be a lot of people playing like all removal decks, and you're like, oh, okay. Um, or like I have the two meld creatures on the battlefield. I'm like, come on, just let me do it, and they'd be like, nope,
Yeah.
dead. I'm like,
Fuck
come
that.
on. So
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I've watched people play in the streamer showdown in constructed and play against, like, they're just playing like stock. Is it would be the example from current standard. You're
it'd
just
be
like,
like,
why are you doing this?
like
I
just
just don't understand why you brought a current stock deck list with no changes to like the pre-release streamer event
that's
just to
like,
dunk on people trying new decks. Like,
yeah.
what?
What's the point? Like, you're not showing off new cards, which is the purpose of the thing. Like, I understand that you're excited to like, oh, I want to try this in this deck, but it's like, yeah, but like you know it's probably gonna work.
Yeah.
I don't
You
know,
can't tell if it makes the deck slightly better or slightly worse from like the
from the
handful of
one
matches
copy or
you're gonna
whatever,
play
yeah,
in this best of one format
or
on like
something.
like yeah, but teach their own, I suppose. But yeah, I guess that would be true a little bit of draft. People are just like probably taking it seriously, trying to draft for real. But
And to figure out, I mean, like I get that, like try to figure out what the draft format is going to be like,
mhm.
and so it took me a while to get beaten up a few times by like a ton of removal decks to be like, I should be taking removal a little bit more highly and trying to just actually build a better deck instead
Well,
of
there you
just
go. There's a
straight
good
having fun.
tip.
That's
Like
true.
take removal. Makes sense in a
Yes,
set where there's a lot of like legendary creatures,
that are
powerful
big
creatures and
and
stuff.
strong. I will say that you can get run over um, by the freaking stupid little. There's like an artifact deck, and that's the white blue archetype. And the card that I thought was absolute full garbage and then ended up being a thorn in my side was the
Ooh, love this.
Magitech Infantry, which is the 1 mana 1/1 artifact creature robot soldier at common. And it gets +1/+0 if you have another artifact in play. And then you can pay 3 mana to search your library for a copy of the exact same card, the Magitech Infantry, and put it onto the battlefield.
Classic card that Zach hates.
It's just one of those cards that's like, hey, you have to fill your deck with a bunch of these 1 mana 1/1s that get slightly better. They don't get it like they don't
I
continue
hate
to get
plus one
bigger and
plus
bigger.
O on one
Yeah,
drops or like
it's just,
I'm
it's
or
just
two drops. Like I'm never interested in that.
it's just not that exciting. But
Yeah.
it ended up being annoying enough that like it was just like, ugh, they're just gonna go get this stupid thing. And then when they pair it together with the Titus, where you're like, you don't want to trade early because it's just you play maybe something that's like a 2/1 that like maybe perhaps that wasn't the best choice of card for me to have, and made me learn like, oh, some of these creatures weren't nearly as good, or I didn't want to trade with something else. And then they play Titus, and then they start just tapping down your one blocker every turn, and then those start stacking up on top of each other, and you're just like, this stupid 1 drop I didn't want to waste removal on or trade off with is now beating the crap out of me because it can just go get more copies. And you're like, how many do you have? 4, 5? How many is it?
Right.
And they always have way more than you think. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Part of that is definitely, opening night stuff. Like if this card is actually good, you're
you
not
will. It
getting
will.
five of
It's
them.
horrible.
And
Like
then
if this,
it's
yeah,
self-correcting, right?
yeah, because it's super true. If this card is good, then you're never going to get a copy of it,
Yeah.
which
And
means that the
one copy
card's
of this on its own
terrible.
sucks.
So then
So
you'll
yeah.
never take it early, and so then it will be bad again. So that it will kind
Maybe
of
yeah,
have a
maybe
flip
it's
flopping thing.
cyclic. I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps I don't know,
Or
but
everyone just ends up with like two or three of them and it's super mediocre. Um,
I think you
yeah, that's what I was
need.
gonna
I was just gonna say,
sorry,
I
go ahead.
think you need like 3 of this card, or you
Yeah.
shouldn't play it. But that's my
I
personal
kind of
opinion.
think even at 3, I'm not interested. Like, unless your deck is super interested in just always having an artifact to play. Like, that's
Yeah,
the
every
thing I can
turn.
see.
That's true.
But this is a card that I would have written off as well, and I'm
Yeah.
probably not ever going to play this card because this is the classic, like, other people value this higher than me.
Hmm.
Even if I acknowledge it's better than I initially
Originally
thought,
thought. Yeah.
it's still not going to go high enough in my rankings to have me end up take it highly enough to have like a feasible number of these in my end deck. So I'll pretty much never play it unless I get the weird draft where I'm like, well, I don't like anything in this pack. Let's take a flyer on this, and then
Hmm.
next thing you know, I
And
have 6 of
see,
them, and
and you're like,
yeah,
well, all right.
I guess I
Yeah.
have to.
This is the card. I gave this like a D in my set review, and I've moved it up a little bit in the sense that okay, if you have a really aggressive artifact deck and you kind of top out at like Titus, then this card ends up being really frustrating and good. Um, but still not really a card I love.
Sounds pretty specific, and we don't know if that's even a good deck in the format yet. So I
Yeah,
think D is a reasonable starting point on this thing.
to sit on. Um, but it did make me think that like some of the job select stuff and some of the artifact things ended up performing a little bit stronger, and Titus in particular performed a lot better than I thought. Just the tapping ability was so
Titus
irritating.
looked good to me, but the
So
question was always like, is this
is
deck
the
good?
archetype good?
Right.
Yeah, and so to me, Titus seemed a little bit too small. I'm just gonna read Titus really quickly, just so everyone knows.
Yeah, that's fair.
Titus Blitzball Star is 1 white blue for a 2/1 legendary creature, human warrior, uncommon. And whenever an artifact you control enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on Titus. And whenever Titus attacks, you tap a creature an opponent controls. So the sometimes the first ability kind of tricks you into thinking like, oh, 3 mana for a 2/1 that you have to play artifacts afterwards. Blech, that's not that exciting. The tapping part is the really strong part, and
Yeah.
that's been forever a good limited archetype. I think we did get a little burned during Wilds of Eldraine to make us think that white blue tapping stuff is bad,
Right.
because that was the entire archetype. This is just good because it's not the entire archetype. You don't have cards that pay you off for tapping stuff. You just
Right.
have a
It's
card
not
that,
you're not all in on that. Yeah.
yeah, which is a crazy thing. This just, you know, whenever you play a card, you get something. That's just inherently a good game mechanic. And so this goes right into that and is aggressive. So
Yeah. My thought on Titus was like a 3 mana 3/2 that taps something down when it attacks is a wild, like a very good limited card. And this has upside on that. It just has a deck building restraint. Like you have
yeah,
to be in
you
a specific archetype.
yeah. So you have to make sure you can hit the next one. But it is the kind of thing where like if you play Titus on 3 and then on 4, you can search up your Magic Tech infantry and you get to trigger it.
Right. So it works out.
Even
Yeah.
if you don't have an artifact in your hand, you could get one. So yeah, so there is that. That was extremely surprising to me. I did not think that that was going to be the case for whatever reason. I didn't think the format was going to be fast enough. I was kind of thinking that a lot of the bigger, strong, like heavy lifting archetypes were going to dominate, and
Yeah.
I kept getting undercut constantly with that, or with the Rakdos Wizards deck seems really strong and limited to me. Just because even if you can't beat your opponent with attacking, it can just kill your opponent with pinging later.
Right.
So
Has some reach to it.
exactly, and has a lot of removal as well, and pretty big removal too. So that's helpful.
About
But
time Black Red is good.
yeah, but overall, I don't think I have a specific color that I'm starting the draft with and hoping to be in. It doesn't really feel like Aether Drift, where we're just like, all right, well, if you're not playing green, what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, Green and
So
Aether Drift was nuts.
yeah. So I'm happy to see that. I do agree that synergy is still. I still think synergy is really strong in this. That like there are certain cards that want to really help you out in certain archetypes, but you can beat people down a lot better than I had originally thought. I thought that some of the more aggressive archetypes were not going to be as strong, and I think they are still quite strong.
Good to know.
So
Good to know.
Boros equipment still a thing.
Um,
Especially, man, I will say Boros equipment. If you have a Firion or Firion, it's a rare. It's a red rare. It's 3 mana, so it's two in a red for a 3/3 legendary human rebel warrior. Equipped creatures you control have haste, and then whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, you create a token that's a copy of it, except its equip costs two less, and you sacrifice the equipment at the beginning of your next end step.
oh, that's neat.
So if you play Firion, and then literally like today I got to play Firion and then double spell two mana equipment. So then all of a sudden I had four like 2/1 attackers that like before that I played like item shopkeep. So one of them got menace. They all get to attack. They all have haste. And then when you move the equipment around later, that you can give creatures haste. He's like obviously only good in that archetype, but he cooks in that archetype. And
Yeah, that looks crazy strong.
yeah, it like turns all of your like the 4 mana common red Gesundheit, the 4 mana common red like axe thing that makes a 4/3. That thing is just a house when you're playing Furion. It's just
I mean,
crazy.
holy cow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's insane.
So yeah, that's been awesome. But overall, like I have a lot of like very kind of specific things to say about certain cards, but I think overarching stuff. The one thing I want to say is that, man, can anyone please let me play Gruul Chocobos because everybody's just taken all those cards apparently, or like I can never get the landfall deck. It's always taken. Like Saw's Chocobo, it's the green 1 drop at uncommon. That's a 0/1, and every time you play a
Yeah.
land, it gets a counter. That thing is crazy good and very scary, and no one ever gives it to me or lets me have it. So
I mean, a 1 mana +1/+1 counter landfall card is nuts.
it's
It's
nuts.
crazy.
It's extremely good, especially with other bird payoff stuff. So that card dominated the streamer event, in my opinion, and I constantly saw it, and I was always groaning when I saw that
Yeah, that
card.
card's wild.
It's
Like,
so strong.
that's the type of card that, obviously it has the downside of you draw it late in the game, it's not that
Hmm.
good. If you can build your deck in a way that it's fine, then you're
Hmm.
already happy. But like just the fact that it is so good on turn
Hmm.
one
It's.
is enough.
I had a situation where I was so stoked because I had my Sauce Chocobo on turn one, but I was on the draw. My opponent plays their Chocobo. I'm like, okay, well, I'll do the same. I played mine. They play Tapland Town and they use Clash of the Eakins to fight my Chocobo. And of course, theirs is one counter bigger
Yeah,
than
yeah.
mine and it kills
I was
mine.
gonna say you don't want to be on the draw in the Chocobo battle because you're always one behind.
Always one behind. And especially when they have a 1 mana fight spell, it's just brutal.
Yeah, that accentuates that just really rubs it in your
It
face that
does.
theirs is bigger.
And they're like, oh, by the way, yours is gone. Yours is not getting any bigger.
Yeah.
And soon your removal won't beat mine anymore, you know?
Yeah. I
So,
mean, a 1 drop that's not even a rare or mythic rare that literally is like if this comes down on turn one and you don't deal with it, you're gonna lose.
yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yes. And like, that's a very first pickable card for me. And so, Sauce Chocobo is so good.
Yeah. Something to watch out for.
Something to watch
yeah,
out
I think
for.
that's a pack one pick one windmill slam unless you have like some crazy rare.
Yeah. Which there are a bunch of crazy rares in the set. So,
Yeah,
uh,
not saying it's the best card in the set, but it's probably the best non-rare, early front runner for best non-rare card.
one of the best ones for sure. There's a lot of interesting stuff, but that one's one of the scariest ones.
Just like raw power, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, even without Chocobo Kindred
Stuff.
being relevant, which it is, like that's just a powerhouse limited card,
Yeah.
even with irrelevant creature types.
I will say when we're on the subject of chocobos, just be wary, everyone out there, of Chocobo Racetrack. I think it's just a bit too expensive. It's 5 mana, 3 green for an artifact with landfall. Whenever a land enters, you make a 2/2 chocobo token with landfall +1/+0. I just think it's too slow. Five
It's
mana
it
is too much.
it's the classic expensive card with landfall issue where they
Yeah.
always read like, "Whoa, that's nuts," and then you're like, "Wait." Especially in limited, like how many lands am I playing after my fifth land drop,
Yeah.
right? So, what is a reasonable expectation for this card? That it sits there for a few turns and I get maybe a couple of 2/2s if the game goes long. Like it can win you a game, but the most reasonable expectation is that this card doesn't really generate much for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the fact
Um,
that the tokens have landfall even just add like the tokens aren't even that good in the late game unless you have landfall to like pump them, which you is already the problem because you needed to make your landfall to make the
to
token in
make the
the first
token, so
place.
you
Like
have to find
it's
more.
it's asking you to have a lot of lands.
It does, or
Like,
like
or
find
to
different
like
ways
cheat
to,
it out somehow. Like
or I
if
don't
you
think
can
there's a way to
play it
do
on
that.
4 lands, you're already a little ahead
Okay,
of the curve kind of
that's
thing,
true.
right?
You
Like
can, yeah, you can ramp into it for
Like
sure, but
that's the dream is like ramp into it and then drop your land drop for the turn or whatever and
exactly.
immediately make a 2/2. But yeah, no,
But
I'm
yeah,
I'm with you on that. That sounds like maybe you can build some crazy constructed deck that has some like weird combo that brings in a ton of lands all at once and like
yeah, I think like if you play the traveling chocobo, it doubles the landfall triggers. So when you play one land, you get two chocobos, which does actually start to get a little scarier.
yeah.
But there's a huge setup cost, and that's a mythic. Like so,
Yeah, and there's
it
still the inherent problem of like I hit my fifth land drop. I need to hit more
yeah.
to make this do anything.
So you definitely want a couple different pieces for the deck, and Chocobo Racetrack is just a bit too expensive. There was one last thing with landfall type stuff that I wanted to just mention because this is not necessarily intuitive, and it's going to be something that is really, I feel like, kind of like a marquee piece of this format, and it's still in green. But there's a card, a common, called Prisha's Wanderings, which is 2 and a green for an instant. You search your library for a basic land or town, put it on the battlefield tapped, and when you search your library this way, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature.
Hmm.
This feels like it's just like a bad cultivate or like well, not bad cultivate, but it's like a rampant growth, but you can get a dual land. But the big thing is that this is an instant. So your opponents will hold up 3 mana and use this as a combat trick against you to not only trigger their landfall, but also to put a counter on their creature. So if your
Yeah.
opponent is holding up 3 mana in green and they have a chocobo out, or even just not even just a chocobo, but like this card ends up being a kind of a great combat trick because it does multiple things. And
Yeah.
just be wary about attacking into this because it's an early format way to like lose combat, being like, oh, I didn't realize it was an instant that looks like a sorcery to me, especially because
Right.
there's a card called Combat Tutorial, which is a divination that's still a sorcery but puts a counter on something. So it
Hmm.
looks like it might be the same, but this one has an instant speed, and that's really really important.
Yeah, that's a huge call out because like I like the design of that card a lot, right? Because it's like, hey, it's half ramp and growth, half combat trick, and if you're playing the deck that wants it, you get the best of both worlds. But as far as combat tricks go, like 3 mana combat tricks, clunky and readable. So
Yes.
early in the
So
format, you might run into it
you
without
will
that
not.
word to the wise, but like yeah, you're not going to get blown out by later in the format. You're not going to get blown out by the 3 mana +2/+2 that exists in the landfall decks. So just get ahead of that. Know about it now.
Just know about it like on day one.
Be
No
the
one
one
at the
blowing other people out with it, not the
exactly.
one getting blown out
Yeah,
by it.
teach other people that they should be worried about attacking into this. Or when you attack with your 2/2 and like they're sitting there with like a Barret, which is a 4/4 with reach, and you attack with your Chocobo when you have 3 mana up, they'll be like, what the hell is happening? And you're like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm gonna trade with this fucking thing.
yeah,
So just watch out for
But what
that.
I love about the card is if they don't take the bait, they just don't block, or they don't attack into your
Hmm.
blocker because you held this up. All right, I'll just ramp and put a counter on something.
Exactly.
Totally hit fine.
Yeah, fix my
Like it
colors
doesn't just
because it,
rot in your hand like
yeah.
expensive combat tricks usually do.
The other thing I really like about this and some of the other like cards that let you search out stuff, the fact that it gets towns is huge because it
Yeah,
cuts down all the basics you have to play for your splashes or your other colors.
right.
So
Because
you can,
usually splashing is like, well, I have some of these weird dual lands, but those aren't
mhm,
basics, and then I have these other cards that go get the basics I need.
but
And
I
and
can't
you're always like,
do.
do I want to play one swamp just to like
Yeah,
turn on my evolving wilds for the splash? But
for
I
this thing,
have
and then
the
if yeah, and then get the situations where you draw your swamp and
yeah.
like you draw your swamp and your mountain and you're like base green and you're like, oh, I can't do anything with this hand. I have to mulligan and then this gets shitty. So the fact that all these get like towns and stuff is great. I don't know. I like that feel so far. I'm excited to see what else happens with the town stuff and how that kind of works out. Because also, if you happen to be lucky and spike like a Balamged Garden, the Seed Academy thing, that
Mhm.
it's like the town land that flips into the 5/4
Yep.
vehicle with flying that draws you a card when you attack. This just goes and gets that card. Like, so you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go tutor my bomb to the battlefield, kind of thing. Maybe not a bomb, but a threat to the battlefield, which is pretty exciting. So, really cool stuff. Lots of fun little things. I'm excited to see what else kind of bubbles up through more and more games. But
Yeah, you're getting me excited to draft this set. I did have one question I wanted to ask you about the
yeah,
draft format before we move on. Just a quick little check-in on what we might have talked about last week. But how does the Wyvern feel? Have you played
the
with her
dragoon.
against?
So dragoon's wyvern is I think it's I think it's in a middle ground, and I can't really tell because people. Let's just say I got this as a push today.
Hmm.
So people either really don't like blue or really don't like it. And I don't. I've been seeing some blue cards kind of go around, and they kind of surprises me. And I don't know. It still feels kind of strong to me being able to play this like 2/1 flying threat that also has a 1/1 that trades with any of the 2/1s that are out there. There's a good amount of like job select cards that only give +1 power, so you get to trade with those tokens and all of that. So I don't know. I still like it, but it doesn't seem to be like this crazy busted thing that I'm losing to constantly. But I still play multiple in my decks because I keep seeing them.
Nice. That reminds me a little bit of was it Midnight Hunt? A
Hmm.
Serulf's packmate, I want to call it. The first like two or three drafts I
Hmm.
did, there's some packmate card that was essentially like a creature that you got to draw a card and then play for cheap, and it was like,
Yeah, that was in Kaldheim.
oh, call time. Right, because of
Hmm.
course, because it had that mechanic. So call time. It was just a wolf, so I guess I thought
Yeah.
Midnight Hunt. Um, but I remember the first few drafts I did of that format, I was getting like four or five of these things, and I had it as like an
Hmm. Passable. Yeah.
unbelievably good
Hmm.
common. So I was like, either they're wrong or I'm wrong,
Hmm.
but I was still doing well, so I just kept doing it. And then eventually it was like, yeah, this is, one of the best commons
Hmm.
in the set, and I never got more than two ever again. So you like in week one, you never know.
It's
People
true.
pass these things because
They
like
pass crazy stuff,
they just don't
and
know.
I,
But
I I can feel a huge difference from playing just on the ladder and playing in the streamer event. Just like the
right. That's what I
quality
was
of
gonna say
drafters are
during the
just
streamer
drastically
event
different.
of like that's got to skew way higher skill because it's just people that play a lot and are
Hmm.
engaged.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so just you saying like the whole like I'm still taking them because like I don't I
They
think I
they
would
still
think
seem
they're
good to
wrong, but they're
me.
starting to
Yeah.
make me question it because
Hmm.
like I keep getting
I,
past these things.
yeah.
Exactly what I went through with that card, and I was just like, there's just no way this card is bad.
Hmm.
Like even if it's not as good as I think it is, there's no way it should be wheeling.
Yeah.
Like that's
Exactly.
nuts.
I wonder if it feels like it can't fit necessarily in some of the decks because the 3 mana slot is so interesting with some of these things. And you bringing that up reminds me that, I was very firmly in the camp of like the Rakdos spells deck will be king and the
Hmm.
Izzet one is going to be garbage. And
Right.
I will say that the Izzet spells deck can rock you really hard and is actually a little scary because the card, the Emperor of Palamechia, I don't know. Anyway, it's like one of the uncommons. It's like blue and a red for a 2/2 human noble wizard at uncommon. It taps for blue or red to cast non-creature spells, and whenever you cast non-creature spells that have you spent 4 or more mana, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And if it has 3 of those counters, it flips into like this 3/3 landfall thing that when it attacks, it deals damage to your opponent equal to the number of non-creature spells in your graveyard.
Okay. That's a house.
It's very good, and it is definitely a kill on sight if you're playing against that deck. If this comes out on turn 2, turn 3 they're going to play a 4 mana thing and maybe eject your blocker, and then quickly you will not be able to do anything. And just the I don't know, the blue red spells deck with that, and then Shentoto is the other uncommon. Both of those cards are like scary cards that I'm just like, okay, here we go, and which I was not expecting. I thought this blue red like 4 mana spell thing was going to be awful, and it ends up being like tempo-y and like lethal. So watch out for it because it will sneak up on you and it can deal a lot of damage very quickly out of nowhere, seemingly. So,
I was gonna say you said like, the red blue spells deck is scary. I always think the red blue spells deck is scary. It's just that it's usually inconsistent. So it's like, am I playing against the one that sucks and they do nothing?
mm.
Or am I playing against the draw where I just like had no fucking chance and they just like comboed off on me in limited? And I'm just like that. Come on,
I don't know. I
you
feel
know?
like I there have been times where it's like, oh, they play the card that's like every time I cast a spell, it deals 1 damage or whatever. But they only have like
Yeah,
1 or 2 of those in their deck.
right.
And the reason I'm like the Rakdos one is because all their cards make that card. And then the Izzet one does more of the, yeah, I play bigger spells and then they make my creatures like get +X+0 equal to the mana I spent. So my zero
Right.
four is just sitting there. But then on the turn that you only have like 1 blocker, I like bounce that with an eject, draw a card. My thing gets +4/+0. I play another cantrip, and now it's a 5/4 plus this other thing that's attacking. And it's just like, oh my god, that was a crazy thing. And then of course they still have a handful of cards, and they're playing like draw spells, and their creatures get bigger, and like just the shit like that. You're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So don't fall asleep when you're playing against it. I think sometimes I start to play against the Is It Spells deck and think I can relax a little bit because they have to set up so many things for the deck to work, and it's like no, they need one thing set, and then you're a little worried about it. So just it's not the pushover I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like bottom tier worst deck, and doesn't feel
Still
like
might
that to
be,
me.
but you have to respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are kind of my thoughts on limited. Well, that's not true. I have a couple more things, but I'm going to save it for a little bit later. So,
Yeah. Fair enough.
but Jeff, we also do something every single First Sips episode where we get to talk about other cards, and these are cards that we believe are worth a slot in your standard deck or just constructed decks in general. So, Jeff, would you do us the honor and run us through all the different tiers of how we break this down?
Absolutely. So, as you all know, the real currency of MTG Arena is wildcards, and we are
Hmm.
hoping to help you save or at least spend your wildcards more strategically
There you
by
go.
telling you the cards that we think are absolutely worth one of those coveted wildcards. Now, we don't want to just give you a list of all the cards we think are best. We want to
No.
sort of also give you a confidence level. So we
Mm-hmm.
will say, hey, we think this card is worth spending, and here's how sure we are. And that way you get to gauge that confidence level against how interested or how fun you think the card is and match that. And so the way we split that up is we have a layup. This is a card that we think is just really good. If you wanted to craft this card for whatever reason, just go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a three-pointer. This is a card that we think could make it. It has the potential for sure. And so generally I would say if you are really interested in whatever deck this would go in, it's probably worth a shot. You'll have lots of fun and maybe it won't get there, maybe it will. Half court shots are really just like pipe dreams that we wish would be good,
Mm-hmm.
but probably won't get there. And I find for me, it's generally like a card that would have been good a while ago, but it just doesn't hold up under today's scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we like to round it out with a card we think is overrated based on people's reactions in the community, and a card we think is underrated.
That's right. So Jeff, I believe I started last time, I think,
Okay.
because I picked the coveted Corey Steel Cutter and took that away from you.
Mm.
So I think it might be your turn to start us off.
All right. Well, generally when we do these things, I always like to try to avoid cards that we've already talked about in the past, but I just cannot do that tonight.
No.
There is one card that I'm most interested above all, and I'm sure it is worth one of your mythic rare wild cards. So
Hmm.
I'm just gonna pick it as mine. It's my favorite card in the set. This is Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier, and it is two and a black. I'm gonna read it again. I know you've probably heard it if you've listened to the show. It's two and a black for a legendary human avatar soldier 3/3. Whenever it enters or attacks, you may sack another creature. If you do, draw a card. I already love it.
Hmm.
Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses one life and you gain one life. If this is the fourth time this ability is resolved, transform it, and it transforms into a 5/5 flying that as it transforms, you get an emblem with whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses one life, you gain one life. And whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice any number of other creatures. And if you do, draw that many cards. Whew, holy shit. If they designed like the perfect card for me, this
Hmm.
would be it. I no notes. No notes on this one. This is I love it. I probably won't have the patience to pick these up in draft and will just throw four mythic rare wild cards at this and start seeing how it performs. So, uh, if you are as excited about me as this card, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, just craft them, you know?
Yeah. I second that. I think that it's definitely worth crafting right away. Because it also looks like a card that could find space in other formats. I don't know if it necessarily just has to be standard. It just
Yeah.
seems that powerful. And it seems like one of the marquee cards that is extremely strong
It's a
in its
lot of text
respective.
on this card. That's how you know
Yes.
it's good.
Yes. I think Strixhaven would like to, beg to differ, but yes. There
A
are
lot
some
of text for a three drop. How about that? That's
There,
a lot
sure,
of
sure, sure,
text
sure,
for a
sure.
card that does not cost a ton of mana.
Yeah, well, it says draw a card and kill your opponent, so that's pretty good. I think.
When
I
I
think
was
that's
reading
quite
it, I
nice.
kept waiting for the downside, and it never came. It
No,
was just
it's
all
just
all
like
upside.
no. This is a great card. I guess the downside is it's a mythic. I don't know.
Oh, that's even
Uh,
a bonus for me. I don't need to use some of my mythic wild card. If it was a
that's
rare, I'd be like,
oh
oh, that's
god,
tight. That's tight. I have to
difficult.
craft some of these lands, and
Yeah,
yeah, mythic's a no-brainer.
it is so funny. This is the card. My buddy, before we went to the pre-release, texted me being like, "Hey, what card are you hoping to pull from the set?" And I was like, "Well, I hope to pull Starting Town and Sephiroth." And guess who opened Starting Town and Sephiroth? My
You?
buddy. No,
Oh,
no, my friend, sitting across from me, literally like his box was right
that's
there. I was like,
awesome.
it was hilarious.
Yeah.
He ended up having like a crazy, crazy white black deck with two squalls and a Dion, and it was ridiculous. And so I was just like, what, you had like the best experience ever. You got all the great cards. But yeah, so that was just so funny that you know, asking me what I wanted to open, and then he just gets it. But that's great. Sephiroth is dope. It's so strong and so cool, and yeah, definitely worth a slot in your deck. I think that's just a no-brainer.
Yep, I'm all over
Yeah,
it.
I'm very excited for you to give me your list so I can play it as well.
Yeah, stand by.
Okay, amazing. Well, my layup is another card that's been talked about a lot, not by us, but by a lot of people. So it felt like a card we had to talk about. And it gained some traction over the last week as well. It already had a lot of traction for other reasons, but now it finally was something that I was kind of interested in after the streamer event. And so my layup for this set is Vivi Orniteer, which is one blue red for a 0/3 legendary creature wizard at Mythic. It has an activated ability. You can pay 0 mana to add X mana in any combination of blue and or red, where X is Vivi Orniteer's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. And it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So originally this card was very was like blowing up for like either older formats or CDH, because this can be your commander. It's a way to get a ton of mana very quickly, and when you play a bunch of cards and like just play your whole deck, you just kill your opponent. But shout out Jim Davis put together a deck
Oof.
for the streamer event, which had a really, really cool combo in it, which people had already kind of looked at VV and said, you know what, that's a sweet activated ability. I wonder how fun that would be under a Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So that was the first leap, right? If you can
Yeah,
put VV on the Soul Cauldron and then any of your creatures have +1/+1 counters on it, they all have, you just get a bunch of free mana. Jim threw together a deck that also had another card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which is Geralf the Fleshright, which, if you remember, it's a 3 mana 2/3, and whenever you cast a spell during your turn other than your first spell, you create a 2/2 blue and black zombie creature token. And whenever a zombie enters under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other zombie that entered the battlefield during this turn.
whoa.
So when you have the Cauldron out with a VV, and you start playing some of your cantrips, you start making a bunch of zombies, and each of those zombies have +1/+1 counters on them, and then you can activate each one of those to get you more and more mana to draw more spells to keep going and play your entire
That's
deck,
wild.
and basically combo off and win the game. That is what I was looking for me to be excited about a card like this, and for
Yeah.
a card that I think is definitely worth a slot to play, specifically Jim Davis's deck, because shout out Jim, great work, buddy. That's awesome. That's such a cool build.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in action. It looks like the real deal. People will know how to like kind of pick it apart now that they've seen it, but
Right.
I think it's worth testing this out, or testing out versions of this and trying to find it. But having a 3 card combo like this is crazy.
And it's a combo that's inherently like self-synergistic in that all these cards deal in +1/+1 counters, and like the even just having the cauldron being able to immediately put a counter on this
Exactly.
is non-trivial. Like so that's cool. I was thinking, do I want to pick a card that I haven't talked about yet? And so I picked one, and this was the card that I was going to pick if I had decided that I'm not just going to pick Sephiroth. Um, and I was only thinking about like Soul Cauldron and normal stuff. I did not put together the Geralt thing.
Yeah, that's all Jim. Like,
But the
so.
thing I find so interesting about that is that one of the comments I was going to make on this card is that you don't have to go that far back in time before this first ability is a tap ability.
Hmm.
And I was going to say the designers have learned, because
Hmm.
otherwise you just find some stupid way to untap it, and you just like untap it, untap it, untap it, and keep
Right.
tapping it.
Hmm.
But in Jim's combo, it's actually super important that it's
Hmm.
not a tap ability, that it's a
Yes.
0 to activate, because the
Hmm.
things won't have summoning, they'll have summoning sickness.
Yes.
But because it's not that, it actually enables that fun
This
combo.
crazy busted thing with this card that always seemed strong but didn't really have a home, and this like
Yeah,
Geralf the Fleshright. Love, love all of it all together. It's a bunch of mythics smashed together into a combo, but
yeah.
it's so sweet, and I'm sure that you can play versions like is already really strong right now with the Corey Steelcutter decks and some other things, and this is going to play a bunch of the similar cards. Not that I think you should smash them together, but maybe smash them together and see what happens. I don't know,
Not
like,
saying you should or shouldn't, but
but
we're
maybe
just
try it
saying
out.
you have some core steel cutters.
Yeah.
Um,
So to be fair, this is kind of telling you that you should get 4 VVs at Mythic, and then 4 Soul Cauldrons, and then 4 Geralfs. So that is quite an
well, those are
expensive.
old cards, Zach. We're
That's
assuming you have them.
that's right. You probably have these cards in your collection already.
I mean, I definitely have four soul cauldrons, and I was gonna do
I
some
definitely
perusing
have
with
four
that.
of
So.
both. All of them. Probably. Oh, well, I'll get VV because I want to.
I was
But
gonna say you have four VVs already. Wow, that's
and the first thing I did today was craft that card. No, not yet, but I probably will. But anyway,
no, it's
that
a good
just
pick.
it seemed like an important thing to point out because it Vivi went from a card of like I'm just not going to care about it because it's not amazing. Like it's cool in draft, but like not like I think it's good enough. But boy, were people going berserk, and it's
Yeah,
one of those cards that like that and Sephiroth are the ones that they post when you open a pack. You're like, I did it. I've got the card. You know, it's Vivi
right.
and Sephiroth. So they seemed like no brainers for layups.
Yeah,
Anyway,
VV. My initial like gut reaction was like, boy, boy, am
mhm,
I gonna hate whatever deck plays this.
yeah, and
And
you
I was sure there's gonna be one, but I
mhm.
was just like, I'm never gonna play it, and I'm gonna lose to it a lot.
This is going to
That's
be everywhere. I'm sure of
yeah,
it. Just for the first couple days,
yeah.
whether it's six round or
It's the
not, I don't
type of
know.
card people love too. So
It's
it's
true. Actually, by the time you're listening to this episode, it might have run its course. We don't know, but I still
yeah.
think it's so exciting. With that being
Or you'll be
said,
tired of losing to it already, you know.
yeah, I mean, we'll see. But with that being said, it is a snake draft, so it is my time for my 3 point shot. A card that I think will do something, but or I I want it to do some stuff, but I do have my hesitations.
Okay.
However, this is a card I did already talk about, and I made a case for it last week, but I'm bringing it up right here. But I have kind of some downsides to talk about. So I'm picking Lightning Army of One as my 3 pointer
Yep.
because it's 1 red white for a 3/2 legendary creature, human soldier at Mythic. It has first strike, trample, and lifelink. And then whenever it deals combat damage to a player until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or a permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead. This seemed really cool if you can give it haste with some different things I had talked about last week. There's a couple cards that do that. Being able to come down and this hits your opponent and then all your other stuff hit. You do a bunch of damage. That's really exciting. The biggest thing I want to talk about as a 3 pointer to pull it all back is that this is a 2 color aggro card. And we already have a really, really strong mono red deck that this card is not going to necessarily be like, hey, let's splash for you.
Hmm.
It does, gain them some life and stuff, but it's a little bit slower than the other things that they have. They really only play like 1/3 drop, and it's Screaming Nemesis, and that card just fits way better in the game plan than this does. And then playing 2 colors solely to do like a lot of burn shenanigans is probably not strong. Or it's probably strong, but not faster than the mono red deck. And if you want to be the aggro
Right.
deck, you want to be faster or gain more life than them and also be fast, which is the only side that this deck has. But the biggest, glaringest weakness of this card is that it's a 3/2.
Hmm.
And now a lot of people will say, oh, a 3 mana 3/2, dies to cut down. Yes, it does die to cut down, but I'm more worried about burst lightning. That's what I'm worried about because
Yeah.
I specifically need to be able to be beating the mono red decks, and this card has some trouble with that. So
Yeah, like obviously the lifelink is ideal
huge.
there, but then you die to their most commonly played removal spell. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that that is a problem. The first strike will be really helpful in combat, even when, it's not like first strike on your turn. So there is that. The only reason I'm talking about this card in such a negative light is because I was singing its praises last week, and I didn't like. I've already talked about how great it is, and I still think it's really
Yeah.
awesome. It's still on my no pass list. It's still a card I want to play and a deck I want to build. Like, I'm really excited for this card. I just want to also acknowledge the weaknesses of this card and say
Yeah.
that it feels more like a deck that looks like a ton of fun is going to be awesome, but I can see not getting there and hitting a very middle ground. But the
Right.
card is still one that I really love. I have a couple copies of this card that I don't want to trade because I want to get more copies, so I maybe play it in paper, that kind of thing. But I can see its huge weaknesses. So,
Yeah. And you mentioned like cut down. And that's non-trivial as well, right? Like
it's
that does
true.
get hit by cut down. And I think essentially is it gets hit by all of the one mana removal that people are playing, like Elspeth's Smite and like just any of the one mana removal is a really bad deal for you. I think if they trade their two, like, go for the throat, you're like, that sucks,
Yeah.
but you're
But
not
that kills
devastated. And
everything.
you can
Yeah.
usually play around it. Like they hold up, go for the throat. You're not just walking right into that with your powerful 3 drop all the time. But it's the one mana stuff that you're like, it's just so hard to play around that because they only have to hold up one mana and
Yeah.
they're gonna get you for two mana that way. And so it is worth thinking about that burst lightning, cut down, like Elspeth Smite, all of these things do hit this card. And to be fair, if they made this like a 2/3 or heaven
It would
forbid
just
3/3, that'd be kind of nuts. Like
Yeah. It would need to be a
they
3-3. I think a 2-3 it still dies to some of the stuff, but then the inherent strength of having 3 power to trample over to do the thing doesn't work.
yeah. 3/2 is yeah, 3/2 is probably better than 2/3, but 3/3 would be a little much probably for this card. So
No, I think it would be great. I think it would be perfect. It's exactly what you need. Hey, you get a 3 mana 3/3 that draws you a card. I want a 3 mana 3/3 that beats people to a pulp.
yeah.
But no, it probably would be a little bit too
You're
much.
just
So,
like Paolo as a game designer. Like, I think you
yeah.
should have Flash. Like, no,
It's
Paolo,
like, nope.
definitely should not have Flash.
My card should be able to do this.
Yeah.
My card should have the text that if you take any damage from this in any way, you die. Like
Yeah.
player death touch.
Yeah. And it should be a 1/1 haste for one.
Yes. Colorless.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, not colorless because that would be a very specific deck. That would actually be kind of a more interesting card.
Right.
Generic. One generic.
Yeah.
deck.
Yeah. Yeah. Shroud.
Shroud. Yeah. Shroud's a little bit more interesting than Hexproof, but still, yes.
Cool. Yeah, I love that pick. I also picked a card that we have mentioned, but we didn't talk about it in depth. So it seemed like the perfect card because we kind of mentioned, hey, there's the potential for this card to be X, but there's already some front runners in that realm. So for my 3-pointer, I picked Summon Bahamut,
Okay.
which I'll read it for everyone who does not know. This is a 9 mana, 9/9 flying. And it is one of these saga creatures. It's an enchantment creature, Saga Dragon. So the first 2 chapters are destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Chapter 3 is draw 2 cards, and Chapter 4 is deals damage equal to total mana value of other permanents you control to each opponent. To me, this screams Reanimator, right? Like when you're ramping, there are things that win the game a little faster that you can ramp into. I'm thinking of like the Ugins of the world and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So you don't really want to just pay 9 mana for this. You want to take advantage of the fact that this is in fact a creature, and so the best way to do that is Reanimator. People who have listened to the show for a while know that I love Reanimator, and so I'm going to pick this, the only thing that has me, there are two things that has this as a three-pointer instead of like a slam, a layup,
Mhm.
is one, Reanimator's not a deck right now.
Mhm.
And or if it is, it's not like a tier one deck. And so there's not like a shell that this just kind of slots into already. And two, like there are already a lot of good options to reanimate in current standard. And so, you know, when you have this extended, like massive standard format, the bar gets higher and higher for
Mhm.
Reanimator. And the way Reanimator works is like it's not people love to build toolbox Reanimator decks, but generally the
Mhm.
best way to build it is just pick the thing that's the best and just
That
always reanimate that
it's like
and
a
go for
huge threat
consistency.
that draws a bunch of cards, which is
Right, like the
Atraxa. Yeah.
Atraxas of the world kind of thing,
Mhm.
right? Where it's just like this is just the best thing. And this one doesn't draw you cards when it ETBs. It does kill something though. So
Mhm.
that and it has no protection, right? This doesn't have
Mhm.
hexproof or like indestructible or anything that is also a desirable quality of a reanimator target because it's
Mhm.
like if I want to reanimate something, I don't want you to just like immediately kill it.
Kill it. Yeah.
Uh, but I think this is big and powerful enough to potentially be considered in that realm of like,
Yeah.
you have this reanimator target that comes in, it blows up the opposition and is the 9/9 flyer,
Mhm.
right? Like it defend instead of having hexproof, it defends itself by killing the thing that they have in play
Yeah.
that could sort of mess
Be
with
the.
your plans. So
Yeah.
could kill their, that could kill their planeswalker or whatever. So
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Or just whatever is the issue at the moment. I think this card is great. The other thing that it can do besides reanimator stuff is a lot of folks really like playing like the smuggler surprise decks, which have never really
sure,
cracked tier
yeah,
one. But you get to play creatures for free from your hand. It works really well with all the other all the creatures that go in that deck, which is Terror of the Peaks or all that stuff.
yeah,
So that is nice. Like they don't have something that just comes down and kills a blocker and then gets to Usually you give everything haste, so that's nice. Um, but yeah, this card is awesome. I will say I had this in a draft recently, and my opponent was able to kill it on chapter one every single time, except
it's
for
a
in
real
one of the
bummer.
cases where they stole it and attacked me with it. That was
Oh,
yeah,
well, there you go. You get to keep it. Come on.
yeah. So anyway, um,
Your opponent's just
frustrated.
sitting there like, I hope they play something good that I can, act of treason and
Hmm.
hit them with it. Like,
Plan.
9/9 flyer? They're
Yeah.
like, oh, baby.
Yeah, and they used Zidane, which is this card that also gives it lifelink. So it's just like sick.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, all right, game's over.
Then they
Sick.
sacked it to draw nine
It's like
cards or
amazing.
something. Like
Great. This is
that
this is
is,
a
it
good.
sounds like whatever your opponent was up to was sweet.
Yeah, Boros stuff. But no, yeah, summon Bahamut, sweet card. I just like it as like one of the options. Remember in Foundations, it kind of reminds me of the Foundations Sire of the Seven Deaths, which was a
Yeah,
card that people were going ballistic over. They're like, "Oh my god, it has so many abilities," but it didn't do anything when it entered. Like I
right.
just like this so much more.
Yeah, because it does something, but
Hmm.
it doesn't do, it's not all in on that either, which is like the Atraxa thing, which is
Yeah,
like, hey, I literally don't care about this creature now. It drew
yeah,
me eight, like
four
obviously it's
cards.
7/7 flying, whatever.
Well, the
Like,
biggest
but
thing is the
you don't,
life link. The life link is
yeah,
huge.
yeah, you don't lose to the creature itself. I mean, depends what deck you play. I always
I
lost
do,
to the fact that they drew like 10 cards,
and
and I have this roadblock to get
yeah,
through. It was always like the combo of both.
hmm,
Like, I could have killed you, but then you had Atraxa, so now I have to spend my turn dealing with Atraxa,
hmm,
and then down
and
behind
then
the eight
now you
ball
have
because you drew 10 cards or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
So you need that ETB ability and the ability to just kill them. This feels like maybe a better designed Atraxa where it's like a great reanimator target, but it's not amazing on defense. Like it doesn't just claw you back from a wildly
Hmm.
lopsided board state. So I don't know. It has a bit of that attractive vibe, but maybe not all the way to like, oh, I just drew 10 cards and have the potential to gain 7 life on defense, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I like the
Um,
design a lot, and I think there's space for this to be the reanimator target of
yeah,
choice. But
and I'm glad they used this card and this summon because he's cool as hell in the Final Fantasy X game, and I recently got him as a summon, so he's yeah. I'm always pulling out the big.
nice.
Oh, do I have to pull out the big guns right now? I got my Bahamut. It's gonna come in, and then he beats people up with his like Mega Flare. That's his like ultimate. It's really
Yeah,
sweet.
there it is, right there.
There it is. Um, but yeah, Jeff, what are you looking at for your half court shot this time around?
All right, so nothing really like honestly jumped out or called to me for my half court shot in terms of like normally we like these to be kind of wild, and I feel like so much of the set is I don't want to say, commandery, but a
It's
lot of
commander.
it
It
is
is
yeah, a
commandery.
lot of it's like it's very commandery, right?
Well, a lot of the
So,
crazy cards are commandery. It's like triple triads commandery, and like I don't know. There's just a bunch of the crystals are, or like there are a lot of commandery feeling cards, which is totally fine, but it's very evident.
yeah, yeah, like and by commandery I guess I just sort of mean like they're kind of crazy in their own right. They would never work in standard or in the type
Hmm.
of formats that we're generally talking about when we do this. And so there was nothing where I was just like, that's the one for
Hmm.
this. Whereas normally I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one that like I wish it were good, but I know it's not. But I did land on this is going to be interesting. The water crystal.
Okay.
So the water crystal is two
Yep.
blue blue. It makes your blue spells cheaper. Blue spell it's a
Hmm.
legendary artifact. Blue spells you cast cost one less to cast. And if an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill that many cards plus four
Hmm.
instead. And then you could play four blue blue. Each opponent mills cards equal to the number of cards in your hand and tap it. So I think this card reminds me, like it has happened in the past that mill decks are competitive, like standard or like even modern decks. Um, and this kind of reminds me of the type of engine you need to make something like that work. The biggest problem with this is that it's legendary. And so you only get one. Like when I read
Hmm.
this originally, I'm like, oh yeah, this makes the next one cheaper. And then every time I'm milling, they mill eight, and then it's like 12. And like, oh, they're fucked. They can't beat multiple water crystals. And I'm like, well, you also can't have multiple water crystals in play, which I guess is part of the design. But I could see a world where mill is a thing. It's just like the classic turbo fog kind of like rip through your deck and mill them along the way. And they always need that like enchantment or in this case artifact that actually turbo powers it because they don't print good enough mill cards for you to just get there anymore.
Hmm.
And if there's going to be something that does it, it needs to be something like this that makes all your cards cheaper and
Yeah.
turbocharges them. And yeah, if this wasn't legendary, I'd be considering it more seriously. But the fact that like you can only ever have one of these is probably means it's still too slow, and it's 4 mana, right? So
Hmm.
it's we're living in a in a very fast standard world at the moment. But
We are one that answers a bunch of things and has answers for artifacts because of Corey Steelcutter in the
yeah, the answers
sideboards.
for artifacts is also a bummer. But I was also thinking like fog might be decent, If you could like get a turbo fog deck going right now that just fogs every turn. There are a lot of decks that can't beat that.
That is true. That there is a lot of stuff that can't beat that. I will say the water crystal went up on my picks when I had to play against it in limited because well,
Oh,
number
I
one,
think it's decent
In
and limited.
in limited, if you can mill people, it's a lot easier because there's less cards. So there's that.
Right.
But also, like, this card actually kills people because if you just have a couple cards in your hand, just milling people for 6 or 7 every turn is a lot. And if you can survive long enough to be able to do it, that's great. But
Yeah.
also, compared to like Jadur, which is the land that just traumatizes them, which never kills them,
Yeah. Yeah.
Water Crystal at least does kill them, which is nice. But but yeah, I love where your head's at with the Water Crystal. Like I have played Mono Blue Mill in Standard before, back when we had what was that? There was like a blue card. It was like, I think it was from Guilds of Ravnica. It was like a 2-mana enchantment, and every time you cast a blue spell, your opponent mills 2 cards. And so like the whole deck was just kind of like bouncing your opponent's stuff, and I would play
Right.
like bullshit
Yeah.
like sleep or like
Yeah.
attacking creatures get -3 -0, draw a card, and I just kept
Yeah.
doing that with multiple
Basically, yeah,
of
it's
those out.
Turbo Fog Mill. That's
Yeah.
the classic archetype.
Then it was a blast. I liked it a lot, and most of the games came down to the wire, so
Yeah.
that was what made it really fun. But once the one thing about mill is that when your opponents realize that you are mill, they just go right into their game. They're not like jockeying for positioner. They just like go hard into put the pedal to the metal.
Chuck their whole sideboard into the deck.
Yeah, they're just like, the end. We're gonna kill you as fast as possible.
The 75 card deck postboard.
Yes. Oh, I was that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking like they just try to kill you as fast as possible, but no, yeah, just making their deck as big as possible is also pretty funny. Well, the one thing you could also just do the trick of like adding 1 extra card, just like
Yeah.
just for luck.
I'll throw off your math. You're gonna
for
expect me to
good
have
luck.
60, and I will not.
Nope, just a little.
Zach does that
good luck
anyways,
charm.
just in case. Just in case he has to play against the Water Crystal, he plays 41.
Yeah. I mean, that's the plan. But no, that's a great half court shot. Yeah, it's so hard. This set, the half court shot is becoming one of the most difficult slots to pick for.
Yeah, you spoiled for choice, man.
Yeah, it's well, I think it's difficult because there are certain cards that feel like there's no way this could possibly happen ever. And there's also cards where I'm like, man, this card seems so powerful that like I can't really pick this card.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like there's certain ones that are like, I just know this is not going to do anything. I just like know that like I'm never going to have to deal with this, but I really, really wish that it would work. And I guess like, I guess what I'm saying is that there's a couple equipment in this set that look really sweet. And my half core is basically kind of one of those equipment where I wish I could pick the Buster Sword because I want to pick it because it's such a sweet card and it's so powerful and it's just on the edge where it's basically like a 3-pointer though. It doesn't like I could see this actually doing something. I don't think that,
like the only knock against it's a little too expensive, and
yeah, and that's
so
the
if you
biggest
can
thing.
find ways to like cheat that cost, then
Or do
this
something
is what
that-
you're gonna go to.
Maybe. So basically, I think where we're kind of going is that like I'm gonna pick a different card, which is the same type of thing, and it has the same issue where all of the equipments look really cool, except for the fact that just playing a regular equipment is never good enough.
Right.
When was the last time we had just an equipment in Standard that was good? That was like, oh, you have to play this equipment. Like, all the huge ones are Quarry Steel Cutter, that has nothing to do with the equipment part of it.
Right.
Ember Cleave, nothing to do with the equipment part of it.
Well,
Well, but like the reason, like it auto attaches. We had
you never re-equipped it.
yeah.
Really.
You have Maul the Skyclaves, auto equips. All those cards really did something when they entered the battlefield, and Some
Yeah,
of
yeah.
these just don't do that. So if to me, all of these equipment, Buster Sword included, fit into that category of like they're just not going to do anything. But just for
Oh, I know.
funsies,
Skull clamp.
oh sure, Skull Clamp, yes, that was a while ago.
It's
When
like
that was like OG Skull Clamp was
20
so
years
long
ago.
ago. Yeah, I mean, like I think Batter Skull actually made a creature.
Yeah, it just
Some of
was
the
a creature.
swords maybe for
Yeah,
matchups.
the swords, I
Like
guess.
there's a
Yeah.
couple of those, but like that's what the Buster Sword is. It's like one of the swords.
Right.
So, but I just feel like it's too much disrespect. It's too much disrespect on the Buster Sword to make it a half court shot, even though I've talked so much about it. But just know when I talk about this other card, I'm talking about the Buster Sword. But this card is for all my folks out there, all my new players who love this
Hmm.
thing. This
I
is
know which
cheap
one
enough.
I
This
know which
one's
one you're
cheap
talking about
enough
now.
to be exciting, but Excalibur number 2.
Yeah.
It's only cost 1 to play. That's the cheapest of all the equipment we have. It's a legendary artifact equipment at rare. Whenever you gain life, put a charge counter on it. An equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on Excalibur 2, and it equips for 3. So this card is probably not going to get there, but we do have a new world of the life gain deck with Aerith and some other things. There's a
Right.
possibility that we have a couple things going on that could make life gain a little bit better. I don't even know if this really fits into it, but the day that I'm playing against somebody in standard and they turn 1 Excalibur 2, I'm going to be like, sick. Okay, let's see
Yeah.
what's going on. Here we go. Okay, what's your deck going to be?
Yeah.
That's exciting for me. And trying it out for myself, I don't know. But all you folks out there that love life gain decks, you just got a new little sweet tool. I think this might change your decks a little bit to be more interested in like what are cards that gain you life but also make you tokens so that you can have a bunch of like things like the Ajani's Primates of the world and all that are really huge and great and all the angels and stuff.
Sure.
But if you do have a way to make a bunch of tokens some way and this can pump them up and be able to get in damage that way, sounds interesting. But as far as just like, hey, look at this card, I just say tread with caution. This card will only be good in your deck for the very beginning, for when you're playing your best of one, like life gain decks and your bronze league, silver league stuff. Then it will get much worse. That's my caveat. But that's kind of true with a lot of the equipment, where
Yep.
that's just how equipment are now. Like you can't just play an equipment in your deck that doesn't do anything else. They have to have more utility besides just being a thing that equips to stuff. So Buster Sword included. So that's but yeah, that's my little soapbox as an equipment lover who
Yeah.
fully wants them to be good and fully wants to go back to a time where just having equipment around and putting them on creatures is awesome. I know we're not there anymore, but Excalibur 2 comes on turn 1, so there's that.
I gotta say, man, it's not that good with Furion.
That's true. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. You play it on one, you make a copy of it, and then one of them has to die. So that's
And you probably choose the one that has no counters on it.
exactly. So it's just like, oh,
I guess
great.
neither of them do, but
Yeah, yeah. It's actually pretty horrible with Furion. Don't play it with Furion. Play the Buster Sword, which is not legendary. What the hell? I had
oh,
no
there's
idea.
plenty of those. Plenty of those
Yeah,
sitting around.
they're everywhere. Duh. But yeah, man, I do like that card though. I think it's just hilarious. I don't know anything about Final Fantasy IX necessarily, but the fact that there's a sword called Excalibur number 2 is just so funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh gosh,
Classic Final Fantasy.
classic. But is it though? I don't even know. Like, I mean, classic in the sense that like, do they just like take things from other places and other stories and just slap a two on it? Like, I don't think so. This is the only case I've ever seen it. So,
Yeah, but I
just
think they're a bit tongue in cheek with like the fantasy genre or
that's
whatever.
true. That's true.
They're
That's
just
true.
trying to like kind of make fun of it a little bit.
Yeah, it's just like this one again.
So, are there any cards that you think are overrated at the moment?
Overrated cards. I think that this is one of the hardest. Well, I just literally said that for the last one.
Every choice is the
Every
hardest.
single card is the
That's
hardest
the
card.
layup. That's why it's a layup.
I don't really have a overrated card. I feel like I've been kind of like pleasantly surprised by a lot of different stuff, and as far as its like strengths and things, nothing seems to be. I guess like there's one that I could probably pick that, as far as like our concerns and what I kind of feel like is going on, seems to be not nearly as exciting to me, and it seems like a card I normally would be really excited for,
Oh, interesting.
which I'm prepared to be fully wrong about this, but I would like to talk about Tifa Lockhart actually.
Okay.
So Tifa's 1 and a green for a 1/2 legendary creature, human monk at rare. It has trample. It has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, double Tifa's power until end of turn. So the word
Yeah.
double is always exciting to me. And landfall as well. However, it is a 2 mana 1/2. I think that people have found lines in standard to be able to kill people on turn 3 and deal like 21 damage. I've looked at a couple of them, but those decks look so awful when you don't do this. That
Right.
just seems like it's extremely
And how protected are they against any removal spell, like any
zero
interaction? Yeah.
anything. And once again, two, like it doesn't double Tifa's power and toughness. It just doubles Tifa's power. So it dies to all the other things that cost one when you're trying to go off, and
Yeah.
we don't
The
have
card my
great fetch
brain.
lands and
No, yeah,
like all
exactly.
that.
We have Fabled Passage though, right? Like
That's the
it's
best one. Though.
acceptable. You can attack for 4 on turn 3, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
you'd monstrous rage and then do it, so at least you get up to 10 or something.
yeah, sure.
But then you have to monstrous rage first, and then they just kill it in
You
response. And then
know,
it's
it's
like,
not it's not how I want a monstrous rage.
but that's what you
Especially
have
when
to do.
like my Tifa's sitting on the battlefield. Of course they're gonna hold up removal. Like,
Or they just kill it on
or
their
kill
turn.
it. Yeah, main phase, right. Yeah, no, it's not a card I'm into. I think what it makes me think of is Electrostatic Pummeler, which actually was a whole deck back in the
That
day.
was great though. That card was awesome.
But it was a whole different ball game, right? Because this is
Yeah,
asking you to play multiple lands in a turn to
which is
trigger it, which
hard,
is like fundamentally that's like the
difficult.
fundamental rule of the game. It's literally like if you had to choose one rule of the game, it's that you can only play one land per turn, like and so this one is asking you to work a lot harder than Pummeler was, which was
Oh,
just like, hey, have energy
yeah. Have a lot.
and
Double, double, triple, quadruple.
right. And so, yeah, I'm not into Tifa. I understand people, people like that exponentials grow quickly, um, and this is exponential.
And it has
But
trample
that's
inherently,
trample. If
so
it didn't have trample, I would be like, what the hell is this? So,
yeah.
it has that baseline, but it's just it's asking too much of you, which means you have to build too much of your deck around it. Like the reason those pummeler decks worked is they just had pummeler and then they were just an energy deck. And so sometimes you lose to pummeler and sometimes you just lose to energy being a good mechanic.
Yeah.
And this is like, yeah, maybe you can throw some landfall stuff around it, but then you're not killing with this that often. Like if you want to play this, you really have to be all in on it.
Yeah.
And I
And then
think
you
that's
have a
just
bunch of legendary creatures that you can't do it on multiple ones, and
yeah, yeah, exactly. The fact that it's legendary means you can't have a few of these out just doubling
yeah.
to really make your life easier. Yeah, I think it's just asking a bit too much.
Yeah. specifically for standard. I think that maybe
Well, in
there's some other
older
ways to.
formats, you have better options for this
Yeah,
kind of effect, I think. But
yeah. So that might be a little bit more exciting. But as far as arena goes, maybe in timeless or something, there's something going on. But I don't know. Um, makes me makes me sad. I love Tifa. Tifa's such a cool character. And the card is also just it reads super cool, but I've played enough of these decks where it is going to make me really upset if I actually craft this card and try it out, you know.
yeah, for sure.
But do you have an overrated card that you're kind of steering people away from?
I do. No question on this one. My choice was Xanarkand, Ancient Metropolis. This card is hot garbage, and I believe people think it's not hot garbage. So that's it.
All right. Yes, for standard, I agree.
Fuck this card.
However, in draft,
It's fine.
when you play this card and then you chocobo kick, pick it up and play it again, it's pretty sweet. Um,
I think this is fine in draft. I think it sucks though, and its design offends me. So
I yes, right. I remember your rant from a couple weeks ago.
yeah, I won't repeat it, but
Okay.
if anyone doesn't hate this card, that means it's overrated.
All right. I guess I don't hate it, so
Yeah, you overrate it. Uh, so moving on to, I guess, underrated.
underrated cards.
I do have one for this, but it's mostly speculative. Like,
Okay.
I don't know for sure that people are rating this card low, and I'm saying it's high or whatever. But I'm trying to sort of guess based on the way the format, in particular standard, is right now, what might be a card that I kind of have my eye on that people don't. And I think the card that sort of jumped out for me in that regard is Ultima. So
Okay.
Ultima is three white white for a sorcery that says destroy all artifacts and creatures, end the turn. Now, I think the reason I think people might be overlooking this is that there's a lot of like efficient or powerful
Board wipe stuff.
sleeper effects at the moment. And so maybe this one's like a keep your eye on it for that kind of stuff to rotate, when we don't have temporary lockdown and stuff like that. But the thing is, artifacts are really good at the moment, as you alluded to earlier. And I don't think that's going away. Like some of the key artifacts are still going to be around. And one of the strongest things about Core Steel Cutter is its ability to recover from board
Board
wipes,
wipes.
other than, temporary lockdown. But even that one, like you blow up the enchantment, you get it back, you just pop off. So having this just like, hey, I kill your creatures and get those cutters off the board. Granted, it's a little slow, so you have to survive to this, but it's still, I think, like a non-trivial addition to the Day of Judgment that we currently have. And so I think it's probably, there's a lot of competition now, but as some of that stuff maybe exits, I think you'll be looking and if control decks are a thing, you'll be looking to Ultima. And I think the end of the turn part just doesn't matter. Like the decks
Yeah.
that want to play this don't care. Like I get it, you can't blow up the board and then play a creature and get ahead, but like that's not what board wipes are really about. And I guess it opens the weird possibility that you like give this make this an instant somehow and like
Yeah.
haha do it on your turn and blow up your stuff and your turn is over, but I think the end of the turn thing just doesn't matter. I think that's
It is
mostly
kind of
flavor.
is it's a little flavor it feels like.
Yeah,
Which I think that they appropriately understood that and were like, it looks like a fun little puzzle, but let's just ultimately it
yeah,
doesn't matter that much.
this is like one of the card effects, like wrath of style effect, that is this end of the turn thing just doesn't matter. Like it was almost all like 90 whatever percent of the time this was already the end of your turn,
Yeah.
like
It's
so
like attack and the turn or sorry,
yeah.
board wipe and the turn. Yeah, that's basically what happens.
uh, Decks that are playing this aren't like ripe with creatures.
Yeah.
So,
But it's true. I think that's or all their creatures are really expensive.
yeah, exactly. So you're not
Yeah.
doing this
both.
and then unless you have 12 mana, then you could probably win the game anyways. So.
Yeah. This also seems like I don't know. I like what you were saying about destroying all the artifacts and all this stuff, and yeah, this obviously goes alongside with um, what's it, the Overlord of the Mistmoors and all the other types of pieces that your opponent wants to. Sorry, your opponent wants to play to control you is what I was
Yeah.
feeling because this is not a card I will be playing.
I was like, yeah,
Um,
you're already speaking and as though you're on the receiving end of this
yeah,
card.
because as soon as you said blow up my steel cutters, I'm like, damn it, this is
Ooh,
gonna
I don't
suck.
love that.
Do not like that at all. Which is a reason why blue is so nice in that deck, so you can counter stuff like this. But yeah, I agree. I haven't seen anyone talk about this card, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah, and maybe no one ever plays it. But
Hmm.
I think I kind of have my eye on it as like, hey, maybe one day this is what I'll need to turn to.
Yeah, maybe one day. Um, I have an underrated card, which I don't. It's one of those things where like I think it's kind of underrated, but I think there's some people that know, but I want to get the message out there for all those who don't.
Oh, perfect.
Which, of course, this is a draft thing, because that's what
That's
I'm
what
always
you've
talking
played.
about. But Phantom Train is a card you should be picking extremely highly. And this card, if you're playing the white black archetype or even close to it in any sense, or even just playing black, I think Phantom Train is a card you should be trying to look towards. It was a card that looked a little bit. Sorry, let me read it first. Phantom Train is a 3 and a black for a 4/4 artifact creature at uncommon. It has trample. It says sacrifice another artifact or creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this vehicle. It becomes a spirit artifact creature in addition to its other types. There is no crew cost. So it's a vehicle that can only crew if you sacrifice things for it.
Mm,
But it sacrifices things for free, and you get to do it as many times as you want.
I like that. I
Yes.
definitely like that flavor too. It's a phantom train.
Yeah. That like you need the souls to drive the train.
Yeah.
And the white black decks need this card. And if you see this, pick three, that's a huge sign to me to be like, that's going to be money getting into that deck. Because I think that deck is sweet. And this card is what makes all of your cards go burr. Like, every single one of your sacrifice things cares about stuff being sacrificed or creatures dying or all that. All your, you know, Albed Salvagers and your magistrates and all those folks really want you to have something that can just like, I can sacrifice at will, and this is the card that does it. So I think that if you see this card, you should take it and try to play that deck.
Sacrificing at will it always amazes me just how good it is. Like even if that sacrifice ability gets you very like marginal
Hmm.
value, just the ability to do it whenever you want and it's in speed, like
Yeah.
it's just really just time and time again it's proven to be insanely strong.
It also becomes an extremely difficult combat situation because then,
Yeah.
like, I've had opponents attack me when I have a magistrate and a phantom train with a couple dorks, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, sacrifice a couple dorks, block with my magistrate who's huge now, and my phantom train is now live and blocks your other creature, and it's also huge because it gets a counter every time I do that. I'm like,
Right.
you're
I think
just
people
dead.
don't realize what they're attacking into,
Yeah,
right?
so many things happen. It also has trample, so it just kills. I don't know. There's so many amazing things to say about this card that like when I see it late in drafts, I'm like, oh my god, I wish I was in this archetype. Like I
Right.
cannot believe nobody's playing this. And
Yeah.
it's not because I think white black is bad. I think it's because people just aren't valuing Phantom Train. So
All right. Good to know.
yeah.
Keep an eye out. This would have been a card that catches my eye, and I would have been like,
Oh,
oh man, is this just a card that I love and I want to take, or is this
I
actually a good limited card?
I think it's great. Well, I also really like Heck Dice and stuff. So all the cards that like feed into this are already cards I want to play. So and I want to have good removal, and white and black do those things quite well. So
That's true. Yeah.
mhm.
It's
So
it's a
yeah,
color pair known for its ability to get stuff off the battlefield.
yeah, get out of here, you. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of it. Those are our first sips and our first thoughts of the set. Um, yeah, Jeff, are you ready for last call? Do you have any last thoughts before we move into it?
No, I'm just excited. Just
Hmm.
excited to give this a go. And honestly, I think the thing I just want to leave on is, wasn't that long ago, maybe at this point, probably a few months, I guess, where I didn't know if I'd be excited
Hmm.
about the release of this set. And so now that it's here, can confirm. Feels similar to a new Magic set dropping. It just feels like that's what's happening, and I'm
Hmm.
excited to play it.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's Final Fantasy stuff, which is not something I know a lot about, doesn't bother me that much.
Hmm.
Oh,
Hell yeah,
it doesn't
buddy.
bother me at all, actually.
Yeah. Come to the Final Fantasy side. I'm fully indoctrinated. I have embraced it, and it has been a wonderful ride. And I'm just I've only had upside. Nothing has been upsetting about this entire experience for me. There's a lot of reasons why that is the case, but I will say that it's just been great, and so I'm very happy that we're here now, and I'm hoping that my feelings towards other universes beyond properties are the same, or
Yeah.
even 50% of what I feel towards this set. I would be pretty happy. So
Yeah, you're
um,
jazzed. So
I'm
I like to
very
see that.
I went from like kind of upset to like, am I gonna play Magic anymore? To this is fucking dope, dude. I'm so stoked. So
Feel like I was less upset than you when it was
mhm.
announced and not as excited. I'm a little
Yeah,
more in
you're
the
kind of
middle.
it. But anyway, so that's how things are going over here. But Jeff, let's go to last call. Let's talk about Presto Changeo, our
Presto changeo.
beer for the night. This fruit beer, the blueberries and lemon. As always, we rate our beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. However, this is just a fun way to rank beers. It's not really anything to say badly about whatever tiers you're in, because everyone's in different tiers at different times. So don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. You spit them out, you pour them on the ground, you hate them, and you will never drink those.
Yeah, and I just worked my way up to silver, which means it's a macro brew, or basically just a boring beer. Not a lot going on.
Gold beers are fine, but you wouldn't really drink them again.
Platinum is solid. You would totally drink it again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You like these a lot. You show them off to your friends.
And mythic, these are the best of the best. I mean, come on. These are the Sephiroths of the beer world.
That's right. All right, Jeff. How did you feel about Presto Changeo, this purpley blueberry lemony beer?
It was good. It
Mm-hmm.
definitely had lemon, and I
Yes.
liked that. It had blueberries. I liked
Mm-hmm.
that. It didn't really taste like a beer to me,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like a refreshing beverage.
A refreshing, bubbly beverage.
Yeah, that had
Mm-hmm.
alcohol in it.
Yeah,
But
a little bit.
if you poured that into a glass and just
Mm-hmm.
like served it to me over ice or something, and you said, "Is this a beer?" I would be like, "No, obviously not."
Mm-hmm.
So that's I think that's mostly a me thing where it's like I like my beers to taste like beers because I
Mm-hmm.
like beer.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's a good drink. It was refreshing.
Yeah, I thought it was. I did think it was a nice drink. Um, I don't know if it's from like the lemons or the combination with the blueberries or something, but there is a little bit of a something to the aftertaste that doesn't
Mm.
fully feel like. So it kind of does hit the middle ground of like, this is not as thirst quenching as I would want it to be.
Right.
Well,
It
while it
doesn't.
has those
Yeah.
flavors, but it's not as beery as I'd want it to be. Because it's like for a light beer, it almost feels a little heavier than I was expecting. So, which is funny. You just kind of think like 3.7%. Oh, this is going to be like kind of thin, a little watery. It was not. It was actually
It's definitely not
packed,
thin. Yeah.
definitely packed full of flavor, which is normally a good thing. So I feel extremely conflicted between like I don't exactly know where to put this thing because like I did enjoy tasting it, but also like literally you said would if you put this on ice, would you think it's a beer? I'm like on ice that sounds kind of nice actually. I would like to try this over ice.
I prefer that, but
Yeah.
like it's not a beer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like what is it, a shandy or whatever, where it's like half beer, half lemonade or
It's
whatever?
actually kind of like a shandy. You're right.
I
It's
think that's
probably
what this is. That's
yeah.
probably what that was their like starting point. They're like, let's
And
make a
then
shandy, and then
yeah.
this is
But it doesn't
produced.
taste the same as a shandy. But I do well. First of all, so a shandy. This is actually interesting for all our
Oh
viewers.
boy,
Jeff, what
kind
is a
of rabbit
shandy?
hole are we going
What do
down?
you think a shandy is?
Literally, when someone says shandy to me, I
Hmm.
think some sort of blend between lemonade and beer.
Okay, so
Whether
this is
that's like actively someone pouring half a beer into a cup and half lemonade, or it's like made in a different way.
mhm,
To me, I think of it as like halfway on that spectrum.
right. And when you're talking about lemonade, you're talking about water and lemons and sugar. That's lemonade, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is also my experience with shandies is that I've had people come to my restaurant and be like, "I want a shandy." And to me, I'm like, "What is that?" And they're like, "Oh, half beer, half lemonade." I'm like, "Cool. I will make lemonade and mix it with beer, and there you go."
Yeah.
Lemonade is the name of like a lemon lime soda in the UK apparently. And they
Oh,
use like it's basically like Sprite in beer is what I have learned from guests talking to me,
I see.
which is not what I thought it was.
So it's
When
just more carbonated, I guess, because like Sprite's
it's
kind of like
yeah,
carbonated
so
lemon and
it's like
sugar.
a it's like a lemonade, but not as lemony, right?
Right.
Like so it just has a different I to be fair, I haven't ever tried that. And when I think of shandies, I still think of fruit juice and beer
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's actually delicious. And there are fruit juices and beer that are called shandies, but I've also had people say that that's not true. So I am coming to you with information that I still don't know is true. And I would
Okay.
like to just put that on the record. I don't know if this is actually true, but I've had people tell me this on multiple occasions that it's not lemonade. It's lemonade is basically 7 Up or Sprite that is then poured into the thing. But it's slightly more lemony than lemonade or than Sprite and whatever.
Hmm.
So
Okay. But it's still somewhere on the spectrum of
it's
mixing lime, lemonade, beer.
yes, but maybe more sugary. I don't really
Yeah.
know.
Maybe it's a little more beer, whatever. But
In my estimation, it's a little bit more beer
yeah.
and sugar and less lemon.
Okay.
Is
Gotcha.
my what I think about.
The
Which
more
I
beer
would
I like, the more sugar I'm not
yeah I would like
interested.
to
The
try
less
it.
lemon, I'm not super
Yeah,
jazzed about that.
maybe we should get together and try that sometime and
You know, we're gonna have a
because
whole
like
shandy episode where we
yeah well I mean it would be perfect because you know as like I was gonna literally talk about how this beer is like a good dad beer because it's 3.7 and you
yeah.
need to coast through you know you can't be
Yeah,
drinking
yeah,
these giant ones anymore as I'm literally like trying to find cool beers and they're all like 8%. I'm like
yeah. It's like,
Jesus.
oh, that one's great.
Oh, damn it.
12%.
Oh, okay, well, I can have one of these. Yeah, there's
I can
literally
have a third of these of
yeah,
this every week.
the brewery by my house, Bellwoods. They
Oh yeah.
have Witch Shark, which is one of their IPAs. It's like a really high percentage IPA, but it's really cheap. It's like to be fair, for that brewery, $5.50 is cheap for their beer.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's
that's
wild
like
for
it's 9.5%. So I'm like, damn, that's a good value right there.
yeah, that's a good
But I'm
bang for your
like,
buck.
but I'm also like, damn, I'm only going to drink one of those, and that will be the only beer I have that night, and it's like
Right.
not
Is
worth
that
it.
is that the experience I want?
Do I want to have 1 hour of drinking beer or like more time and like
Yeah.
not die? I don't know. It's just like things have just changed so much. But anyway, sorry. That's a big tangent about shandies and a bunch of stuff. As far as ratings go, I think this one is so hard to pinpoint.
It's weird, right?
And like,
It's like the limited resources scale, you know. It's like a on its own, it's a gold, but it's a build around whatever, you know. It's
yeah,
like
it's a
I'm not
build
probably
around
gonna
diamond.
get yeah, build around diamond, yeah. I'm probably not gonna get this one again, personally, just because it doesn't match what I'm looking for. But I
Mhm.
could see a lot of people really liking it, so I might recommend to people if
To
they're
try
like,
this
"Hey,
one.
I like shandies,
Hmm.
and here's what I think a shandy is,"
Yeah.
and I'll be like, "Well, you know what? You should try Presto Change Up."
Yeah. I I also thought it was really cool. I kind of want to try it over ice. Um,
Yeah,
but I think I also agree with you where it's like this doesn't feel solid to me. This feels really interesting, and I think there's some other fruited beers that they have that are closer to sours, which I think in general I'm just expecting more of that. So I don't know if that's also a weird part of it. That's like this is a
for
fruit beer that
sure.
doesn't feel as sour. So gold feels like a good spot for this as well. Like where I will probably revisit this one and like I don't know if there's a gold like it's sitting on the elevator to platinum where it's like
Right.
when I'll come back to you and then we'll
Yeah.
try it and see. But
We'll
for the
ask
time
Ryan
being,
about, how's this next batch of Presto
yeah,
Change Up?
yeah. Can we get this one? If they get if they make a shirt that looks like this, right? These lemons and these, then I will actually have to change my rating and drink a lot of this because I will buy the shirt and I'll
I
wear
buy the
it,
shirt, and
and I
every time I
have
buy the shirt, I need to drink this
yeah, and
beer.
so that will be a different situation. This is my official ask, Fairweather. Please turn your can art into like short sleeve button up shirts. I will buy them.
It's
I
true. Their
I
art is
want them.
perfect for that.
Yeah, they all look so great for that kind of not fully Hawaiian, but kind of tropical
In
vibe.
that realm vibe, yeah.
Just take this, replicate it on a shirt, and just make them. I don't know. Someone can do it. You can find somebody.
And you get to charge an outrageous fee because it's like a
Yeah,
brewery shirt,
I know. It's gonna be like $60, and I'm
I
gonna
was gonna
buy it.
say 70. Yeah, like there's just gonna be
Yeah,
like a $70 short sleeve button up, and I'll buy it. God
I,
damn
I,
it.
I will. I won't. If it's $70, I'm not gonna buy them all,
Yeah, just
but
you know, just one to support the cost.
at
But
least one. Probably one every year.
yeah.
It depends how much I like the beer. The high grade one looks really good. Honestly,
High
all the
grade would be
can
a great
arts,
shirt.
that would be a great shirt. Anyway, I really want those shirts or shorts, either one or
Oh.
both, and then you can have the full, yeah, the full outfit. That
Oh
would be
no, I'm gonna
amazing.
mix and match. They're gonna
Oh,
clash like hell.
ooh, I don't know about that one, but like I could easily spend like you can't really get straight guys to be like I'm going to spend this much money on an outfit that's like I mean to be fair, sometimes you can, but for the majority of stuff they're like I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on this thing. I don't really care. It's not like a
Right.
suit for a wedding I have to go to or whatever. But
It's
if
not a
there's a
reason to have a matching outfit. You
yeah.
know?
But like if I had a full tracksuit of like this beer that only people who know the beer or the brewery would get that it is that
Yeah.
I would spend upwards of $150 to buy that full thing.
Oh, I love that idea.
Shorts and the shirt, God, so good. Imagine us like rolling up to a Magic tournament wearing high grade matching shorts and shirts. It'd be so funny.
With our high grade beers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but we'd put like a label over it that said like Magic Juice or something.
Yeah, yeah. The old Bugs Bunny trick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just water.
But we play
But
so much better when we drink it.
exactly. Oh man, gosh. Why are there no? We need more competitive REL tournaments that like enforce beer drinking. That's what
Yeah, like beer Olympics meets
it's
Pro Tour.
true, Jeff. This is the longest last call we've ever had. But do you know banana baseball? Do you know what I'm talking about? Or banana league? Do you know what that
No.
is? So there is a like minor league baseball phenomenon, and it's called like the Banana League or something.
Wait, is this the one where they dance?
They dance. They do a lot of stuff. They do trick plays. They do weird stuff. There's a
Okay,
lot of like
my
trick
wife may have
catching.
shown me this on TikTok.
Yeah, there's a guy who plays on stilts. They do wacky, crazy stuff. It's basically like a show, but not in the same way that like the Harlem Globetrotters play basketball and they're putting on a
Right.
show. This is like actual teams that do come together, but like the outfielders are doing backflips and catching balls when they're like stuff like that, where it's like it's a pop fly. I'm gonna do a backflip when I catch it because that's fun,
A
and that's
little
like
Harlem Globetrottery. Just
yeah, but I guess in the sense that Harlem Globetrotters, they're not playing a game.
okay,
They're
yeah,
performing a game
right,
because the other team will always lose.
right. It's a little more like closer to WWE kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Where it's like a performance where it's like the Harlem Globetrotters are our heroes. They do really well in the first half. They start to lose in the third quarter and then they win in the fourth. That's the recipe. And this is like they actually play the game, but you have to do fun stuff.
Hmm.
And anyway, but if we did that, but we got a bunch of like Magic players or like Magic pros, if you could get, imagine a video where we get Magic pros to like every round you have to drink a beer while you're
Yeah.
playing. That would
I mean,
be that would be pretty great. I don't know. That sounds like a lot of fun.
this is the draft we went to at Ryan's house that had a 3 drink minimum.
It's true. You're right. It is exactly that. But I want it to be all filmed and broadcast with commentators by Paul Cheon and Marshall Sutcliffe.
And you know the cheaters are just going to drive to the event, so
Yeah, exactly. They want yeah. Well, you will just say, "Hey, we're in Toronto. You have to, take the train or maybe it'll be in some convention center that's close by or whatever."
yeah.
But get a bunch of people together. It's like you are required to drink one beer every single match. And
It's like the Mario Kart game. It's like, do you drink at the beginning? Do you
oh,
drink
it's
at
true.
do
Yeah,
you chug before your final attack?
yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah. It has to be finished before the end of the match.
Yeah.
And sideboarding
But
goes
there's a time limit, right? Like,
drinking goes, what am I going to sideboard? Yeah, that's good. And then if you get a buy, do you have to drink or not?
of course. Yeah, of course you do.
So intentional draws is just two guys chugging.
Yeah. But you're
'Cause they're
not
like-
allowed to decide the outcome of the match based on a chugging competition.
Of course not. No, 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 no. That would be ridiculous. We would win every single time.
Yeah.
Not fair.
Actually,
not
maybe
fair.
we should allow it.
Yeah, maybe that'll be good for us. But anyway, I want to figure out a name for that. If you have an idea for a great name for a Magic Beer League where you have to drink beers, when I say beer league, I mean beer tournament. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky. We're at Arena Regulars.
You can also, well, you can't tell us much about that, but you can give us like 15 different emotes on Arena itself. Will be under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at not Zulberg. God, I forget that every time.
Every time.
I've done it for so many years that it just like it
Yeah.
just falls right out. Sorry, if you want to talk to me personally, I changed my handle like months ago, but it's called God. I'm off my rocker right now.
You are called.
Yeah. If you want to find me on Instagram and Blue Sky and TikTok and a bunch of places, I'm the regular _ Zach on all those spots. I'm also on Twitch Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as well as Arena and YouTube and all that stuff. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is our Discord channel if you want to come talk about Final Fantasy, show off your sweet wins, see what other people are doing to get success. It's a really awesome place to come do that. And we have an awesome arena popper, or is it popper?
Peasant.
Peasant,
Peasant.
thank you. Cube draft that we run once a month. In fact, we're running it tomorrow. You probably aren't in time for that one. But for the next one, come join the Discord channel and jump in. It's super awesome. It's a lot of fun, and it's easy on the wild cards. The link to join the Discord is in the show notes.
That's right. Every second Wednesday of the month, that is when we do it. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there as well. Go to our YouTube channel. Give us some likes and all the things and stuff. Honestly, it just makes us feel really great, and we want to hear everything that you have to say about the show. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that the future of Magic is the Beer League Magic Tournament. Name pending. Please submit any names that you can think of.
Good night. All right, that's fine.